One of the teams digging out from underneath the wreckage of the 2022 National Football League campaign is number 3 on my list of top 5 most disappointing teams of the season yesterday. When you come in with a kid that had a revelatory season at running back and can be MVP, certainly behind an offensive line that we said over and over and over again would be the best one that Matt Ryan was playing behind maybe his entire career. And this is a guy who was playing behind an offensive line that he was an MVP behind at one year. Took him to a Super Bowl in Atlanta. But boy, did it fall apart, and it fell apart fast for the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, when they tied the Houston Texans to start the season, it's kind of like, what was that? What was that? And then, the Colts just began to sputter, and they got Matt Ryan, destroyed. He was an iron deer in the front lawn to begin with. At the Jaguars, home for the Chiefs. I don't know. How the hell did they win that game? They were 1-1-1 at one point, right?
How'd the Bears beat the 49ers?
They got swept by the Tennessee Titans by week 7. It was over. And the Titans, as we all know, lost every game pretty much in the last 2 months of the season. That game at the Denver Broncos, I think, turned us all back into cavemen. That's how it was Stone Agey that game was. Remember that one?
Oh, yeah. The Thursday night.
What a horrible game that was.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they turned to Sam Ehlinger just in time to feed him to the Belichick Wolves. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Yeah, what we're going to do, we're going to take a kid who's never played before. Let's throw him out there against the Patriots. On the road, by the way. And that was Frank Reich's adios, farewell. They're going to bounce him. And this may be a top 10 moment in the history of this show, Chris. When you're looking at your laptop and you're like, oh, man. I'm like, what? And you're like, the Colts just hired Jeff Saturday. And I'm like, what?
Literally nobody could have seen that.
You're like, what? Because it was like they fired Frank Reich. Oh, man, did they really pull the trigger on Frank in the middle of the season like that? That is pretty damn cold after they clearly told him you got to start the kid over Nick Foles. I mean, and Nick Foles is the reason why Frank Reich was a head coach for the Indianapolis Colts in the first place.
Isn't that weird?
Right?
So weird.
Yeah, no, don't go to Nick. Don't go to Nick with the season on the line. Let's not go. Let's see what we've got in the kid and feed him to the Belichick Wolves. And when the result that we could all see coming, like it's one of those horror movies you're watching through your fingers, happens, and when that result occurs, let's fire the guy and then hire Jeff Saturday, who then, by the way, because the Colts had already fired the offensive coordinator before firing Frank Reich, has got to turn to a kid who's never called a play before to be his offensive coordinator. And
That's
unbelievably,
correct.
they went to Vegas and won that game. Jeff Saturday, once upon a time, was 1-0, just like the national championship game was once upon a time 10-7.
Richard, can you at some point, maybe this week, maybe next week, can you do a top 5 of the strangest results of
Yes.
the 20?
Wait, you look back.
Season?
The
when you
top
look-
5, did that really happen?
Yeah,
Results
you
of
look
2022.
back and you're like, wait, what?
Done. Next, tomorrow. I got it.
Fantastic.
Got you covered, Chris. So here we go. The Colts now have to dig out of all this. And Jeff Saturday, as we all know, after winning that game in Vegas, lost every single one after that. And it wasn't all blowouts, by the way.
I mean, he almost beat the Eagles the
Dude,
week after, right?
I'm telling you, he nearly handed the Eagles a second consecutive loss.
Yeah.
They were coming off of their first loss of the season against Washington at home, and they go to Indianapolis, and they had that game in their hands, couldn't finish that one. Then a Monday nighter against the Steelers, they were in that one. Yep. Then they go to Dallas. It was just 21-19 going into the fourth quarter, and then the roof caved in. They gave up 33 unanswered. Then they next week after their bye, next game after their bye, they scored 33 unanswered to start the game and then blew it. And then not only added on top of taking Frank Reich's job, they took Frank Reich's record and gave it to Kirk Cousins, biggest comeback in the history of the NFL by a quarterback in any game, regular or post. Then came the Monday nighter against the Chargers, as we all know. That was the one where they looked listless out of any of them. At the Giants, too, that doesn't great. And then the home against the Texans, they had it all wrapped up. Bears fans are like, okay, the Davis Mills Hail Mary. It would have been nice to have the first overall pick. And Lovie Smith spits in the eye of the Texans as he goes out the door by going for 2. We're not playing for overtime in Week 18. I'm going to win this game and stick you with the second overall pick when you stick me with the pink slip that I know is coming. What a season. Chris Ballard, the general manager today, was facing the music. And he said, I failed. I mean, what I love about this guy, he just puts it all out there. He minces no words. This is what he had to say about Jeff Saturday potentially getting the gig.
He is going to be a candidate, okay? Tough. And I told Mr. Irsay this. I mean, when he made the decision and we talked through Jeff, I voiced my concerns, which were, look, this is unprecedented. And we're putting him into a really tough situation here, taking a team over mid-season. It's going to be tough, and I wanted to make sure he understood that. And I had the same talk with Jeff. He'll go through the process just like everybody else. Be interested to hear his vision, how he wants to build it. I mean, he'll go through the whole interview process.
So there you go. There you go. Chris Ballard, that's the very nice way of saying, I love Jeff. Jeff's great.
Is that what he meant by tough? Was that like tough? Jeff's going to be a candidate, or Jeff is tough?
Jeff is tough. And Jeff, hey, Saturday did show under some insanely adverse situations.
They were in a lot of
a team that was playing hard for him.
Yeah.
Okay. He also had some really quizzical decisions on timeouts and challenges, which is what's going to happen when you've never done it before and it comes at an NFL speed. It doesn't matter how many times you've won championships and had Pro Bowl seasons snapping to Peyton Manning. This is a totally different endeavor, and one that he definitely, I think, relishes the challenge. But that would be a tough sell to the fan base to say he's coming back. And then who's the quarterback? And then who's the coach? If not Saturday, is it my guy, Harbaugh, or somebody else? I can't believe the Colts season went the way it did, but it sure did. Albert Breer coming up. This is what Chris Ballard had to say about the responsibility of his roster building and the way the season went, with Matt Ryan behind that offensive line and Jonathan Taylor having a dreadful follow-up season to his revelatory 2021.
Look, I failed. I'm not going to sit up here and make excuses. Failed a lot of people. Highly disappointed, about where we're at, how the season went. I never take lightly what's at stake here. And it's not, the wins and losses, but, people's lives are on the line. Players' families, coaches' families, front office, people in this building, and I don't ever take that lightly. And, I'm disappointed. Disappointed where we're at, and ultimately, it falls on my shoulders. I know there's doubt. There should be. Absolutely, there should be. The criticism, it's warranted. Criticism, regarding my job and what I've done, it's warranted. But I've not lost any confidence in what we can build here.
I love it. I mean, I know Colts fans might be like that, and and a token, for lack of a better phrase, will get me on a bus. But I mean, it's what you want to hear. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.